Welcome to Culture on Tap. We are a podcast that is about bridging the cultural gap one conversation at a time. We have myself, X. We have Dale on the far right. We have Paulie right here in the middle as they're whispering sweet nothings into each other's ear. And we also have behind the camera the man, the myth, the movement. And all you need is a moment to realize that you have never met a person like old Ranger Joe.
Oh, wait.
Range with the introverted eye. So if you haven't already, before we get into the actual episode, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share on anywhere you listen to or watch podcasts. Make sure you hit the bell so that you get notifications whenever we have new content coming out so that you can tap in with us. And so that we can be a resource for you, whether to challenge and or encourage you. You never heard the introverted eye? You didn't hear that?
No, his name literally just tells his eye, get on out of here.
It's
Easy, Jessup.
Can't get right eye.
So I want to just, before we jump into this fun fact with Range, which we just had lunch and talked about it. We did last, we put out a little TikTok and all about, Portugal speaking Portuguese. And we're getting a lot of people that think we are scripting this. I can reassure you, one, we ain't got time to be scripting this. And this is...
Well, not only that, he sounded like he was going to have an aneurysm when he was laughing after that. he was...
So, because me and Range are sharing the mic, I am going to throw this out there. Fun fact with Range. And me and Paulie here can share this mic and let Range have some talking. But Range, would you like to tell us what is New Jersey?
So I didn't realize we were going here this fast.
Where do we usually go?
Well, no, to this topic. I didn't realize
because we just
conversation,
talked about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So Dale and
Fresh.
X and Paul, all and I haven't. I mean, I could easily pull up my phone and Google it and get the correct answer if I wanted to. I just hadn't put that.
You can't trust Google.
That is, we've come to that determination also.
No, you've come to that determination. Don't put us in there.
There ain't no we about this. We don't speak French.
And I'm going to revert back to a previous episode where Dale and X said that New Jersey was a part of New York.
First of all, I know. Don't
whatever y'all call it.
Listen, don't say Dale and X. I know for a fact I didn't say nothing about New Jersey. Okay, we were talking about the boroughs,
right?
The different boroughs. So I don't know if Dale said anything about New Jersey being a part of New York or whatever.
Because I feel like you would have corrected me. I know that New Jersey is not a borough, but I think you would have said no. That's a state. That's a state.
Mm.
But
So
you don't
y'all say.
But yeah, you don't believe it's a state.
So y'all say. No, and like I said, I haven't Googled it or I hadn't pulled out a
But you
map
don't
or
have to
anything.
Google that.
I hadn't pulled out a map or anything.
Felt like Rhode Island.
What about it?
That's
Don't get him started on Rhode Island. But so you think that it's New Jersey, New York? Like
Right.
New Jersey is the city, New York is the state.
Right.
So what do you do with Camden, New Jersey?
I've never heard of that.
Or Newark, New Jersey?
Never heard of that.
You've never heard of Newark?
Heard of New York?
maybe that's where it came from. Maybe somebody's like Newark, and he was like New York. Newark.
But those are cities in New Jersey, the state, and it is considered the Garden State.
The Garden State.
Yeah.
I did know that.
How you know that?
I did because we just talked about it. At lunch.
But you didn't believe that, right?
No. I mean, that sounds made up also.
Yeah.
But no, I could have swore that New Jersey was a city in New York or Pennsylvania, or one of those states up there.
Yeah, Pennsylvania.
But
one of them states up there.
Yeah.
So the question for you though is
Quebec.
the way I figured this out was your wife texted me, Range, and said, "Here's a fun fact for you. My husband thinks New Jersey's a city." How did that come about?
I don't have a clue. I don't remember. I remember her texting you. I don't remember what we were talking about.
You're
though.
watching Jersey Shore or something, or
No, I don't have a clue what we were talking about or how that came about. I clearly should pay closer attention.
Just randomly say, you know what? We should visit the city of New Jersey in New York.
In New York.
In the state of New York.
New Jersey, Pennsylvania.
Because, well, and the good thing is, because you just realized that Philly was in. Didn't we discover that Philly? He didn't know that Philly was in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
A couple episodes back.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember talking about it.
I mean, these cities don't make a hill of beans to him.
No,
on a weekend, week out
Clearly,
basis.
neither do
so-
states.
No.
Well, I mean,
No.
they're not doing much.
I've
for
never
us
been.
either.
I mean, the furthest north on the East Coast that I've been is D.C.
I wanted him to say Mason Dixon or something. So first north I've been. I went Ashton, Mississippi.
Birmingham,
I went up there by
Alabama.
Shreveport. Got all the way up to Shreveport. Started getting chilly, so I came on back down.
On the East Coast.
East Coast. Okay. So you ain't
Yeah.
been to like none of the
Florida.
Kakalakis, North or South Kakalaki, Carolina, North South Carolina.
No idea. You went homeschool on him. Yeah, he didn't know. You know,
I have.
Okay.
But
Where?
that's south of D.C.
Well,
Right?
Yes, a little bit.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Yeah.
What did you? Yeah, I said the furthest north that I've been on the East
Furthest
Coast
north.
is D.C.
DC.
which we have founded that he not 100% sure. His teacher said he visited the Smithsonian, but he does not remember any.
Not sure.
It's quite large.
Well, so they say.
All he does is remember the 504 boys on the plane with him.
That's it. That is really it.
Wow. Wow, what a trip.
Yeah.
Where he went with another school and didn't have to have permission. I don't know how that works out.
Was this before you were on the most honorable banner or whatever it's called?
Honor roll? Oh,
Yeah.
you don't know what this is because he's
No.
National Honor Society.
No, I was always the top of my class. So I should say that for a different episode.
Yeah. But
Oh, that's great.
Anyway.
full circle.
That is great.
Fun fact, if you want to believe that we orchestrate these, then we just put together an episode where Range, rightfully so, still is not convinced that it's a state. That one day, if you want to travel to New Jersey, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Those
Feel
are
free.
good ones. Those are
Feel
good
free.
spots.
And which Dakota that you believe doesn't
South.
exist? South Dakota.
Neither.
Prejudice to both of them. That's good.
I mean, if you're not going to like
Yeah.
them, don't
Might
like
as well not. Yeah. Don't believe in none of them.
Wow.
So none of this. Well, I guess this would be like Range going on a foreign mission because discovering places that never existed. So today we're going to talk about foreign missions because when this episode comes out, myself, Xavier, and Paul, along with 6 other people, will be on a mission trip to Guatemala. Like I said, Range is not going. He is watching his sons so that his wife can go. But we wanted to talk about this because I've been a lot of years to Guatemala. Xavier hasn't been to Guatemala, but he's been to Panama. Range has been 3 years. Is that correct, Range? Yeah. 3 years to Guatemala. And this is Paul's first foreign mission trip, correct?
Correct.
So we want to just kind of get a little closer.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Loud enough so the judge can hear you.
Right.
So we just wanted to get everybody's perspective on this. So just kind of kicking it off, what comes to mind when you hear the phrase foreign missions? And Range, if you want to speak in, just grab the mic at any point. Foreign missions, what comes to mind?
I think of going to concerts and sponsoring kids potentially? Like,
that is very interesting. Explain. I'm not. There's no wrong answer.
I mean, just because like the way I grew up, Southern Baptist, like it was always like my interpretation
I'm
of
thinking
foreign
like
missions.
Journey up there going.
You say Journey?
Yeah,
No.
like
I'm
a real concert.
Talking about the Newsboys, bro, or something. You're talking about some Toby Mac here. Yeah,
Where they had like the little picture of the kid for $10 a month.
Yeah. And Becky and I did that.
Yep.
Yeah, for a while.
You know, I actually did that. I won't say which organization, but I did that for 2 years, and then we found out the kid didn't exist. True thing.
Yeah, that, and then also I think about like heard stories from missionaries who've been in, you know, different countries where it's like this village has a church, but they don't even have like running water and doing things backwards.
Yeah.
Like being kind of messy about what the mission actually is.
Yeah, no, there's a book. You're helping me get off topic. But there's a book called When Helping Hurts, written by missionaries that's phenomenal. I actually read it after I started going to Guatemala, and it changed a ton of my perspective of how we do Guatemala. So, Xavier, what comes to mind when you hear the phrase foreign missions?
I would say there's a few things. One being how it's romanticized, how it's just like people love the idea of going to a far off place and serving the Lord, and yet they won't even go down the street
Talk to their neighbor
and talk to their neighbor. You know what I'm saying? So that's the initial thing, and it's romanticized. Another thing is I think of just the cultural dynamic. Like I think of the cultural dynamic of the gospel, where we, at least for me, whenever I went to Panama, it was so different culturally, where I saw blonde-haired, blue-eyed people who couldn't speak English, and then people as dark or darker than me who couldn't speak English, and just how diverse it was. So on one side, it's like this romanticized piece. On the other side, I see the beauty in the need for it, and just being engulfed and entrenched in another culture. So,
yeah, when I think of foreign missions, my initial thought, like Paul, I grew up Southern Baptist. My first thought is it's the only missions. Like I don't remember growing up, and here's the weird part. I don't remember growing up thinking that the things we do domestically are missions, even though I was in RAs. Were you in RAs, Paul? Were you an RA? Royal Ambassador? I was a Royal Ambassador for Christ.
Like a resident assistant. I was thinking like college or something like an RA.
Our church had like, it was almost like Boy Scouts, but it was for.
Oh no, we had like cubbies, like Awanas.
Oh, okay, see, Awana wasn't around when I was growing up. We had RAs, Royal Ambassadors for Christ.
Back in the 30s.
So
anyway,
once a month on Fridays, we would go down to where I live. We had like a shipyard, and where like foreign ships would come in, and we would go down there and like basically talk about Jesus with kids that would come in on the ship. It was like really cool. But I never looked at that as missions ever. Like I just thought that was what we did. For missions, I felt like you had to leave the country.
What are these kids coming in on the ships for?
I know that sounded real sketch.
and he's from Mississippi.
To be clear, it was like
What kind of mission was this?
no, like it was families. It was families, and they worked like in their like naval thing. I don't know. Maybe they were doing that good stuff. I just know we were telling them about Jesus. I was not involved in bringing them on the show.
Okay, all right, perfect.
So, kind of talking about that. Let's talk about anything you want to share. I guess let's start with Paul first, because you haven't been on a foreign mission trip. Like, where's your like nerves, anxiety? Like, what are you thinking? We leave in less than a week.
Right.
We leave Saturday.
Yeah.
What is like?
We'll be at the airport by this time.
Yes.
6 days.
Yes. Yeah. So, well, actually, when this airs, even shorter because those air on Wednesday.
Oh wow. Okay.
But what's going through your mind? Because like honestly, like I was thinking about you the other day because like so we have prayer journal. When I was praying for you, I was like, I don't remember what it's like the first time I went, which I kind of missed that, like the unknown.
Right.
So yeah.
I definitely think there's an amount of anxiety, right? Like I've just never been to the like a third world country before,
right?
Specifically, and I think that it's. Am I close enough?
Yeah, you're good.
Am I good now? Okay, sorry. Okay, sit here close to the thing. Angle, okay. We've changed the angle.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, for check. Yeah, so I definitely think that just anxiety. There is some anxiety for me there just because of the unknown, right? Like there's just, and even just from like a safety standpoint, it's like, if I like broke my ankle, this is gonna look a lot different than if I did that in the driveway, like right 100%. Here. Like even to the point where I'll be fine for the next few days and wait till I get back to, it's like, it's just gonna be a very, very different cultural experience. I'm super excited. Like I'm excited, but I'm also scared, like to meet and see all the kids, like because that's such a big part of our stories, my story.
They're gonna be drawn to you because they're very small people.
Yeah, right.
And you're large and white.
Yeah.
So you are going to be grande gringo. I usually get to be that guy, but
grande gringo.
You will be the guy.
Güero is white meat also.
Okay.
That's another good one.
So, but like,
Güero. Like on Nacho Libre. That's what that means though. Yeah.
But this is even tough for you, would you say, because what you do for a profession, like you're kind of in control of everything. Like you fly when you want to fly. Like you don't have someone doing all that for you. You kind of do it all for yourself, and now you had to like turn all of that over.
Well, yeah, we talk a lot about like who's the planner, who does things like for a living. Like I plan out trips and I plan my itineraries. I definitely, the fact this is out of country, I'm going to places unknown, all this stuff, and it's completely out of my control, and I'm just putting it in God's hands. Like that's not frustrating, but it's just hard for me because I'm used to literally, I plan my trips down to the T. I know which customer I'm going to be at, which flight I'm taking, what my rental car is going to be, my hotel. I plan them out. So it's definitely a level of, I feel like a real burden of like, wow, there's a lot of trust here. Like, that I'm going to come back. I'm coming back, right?
And the funny part is,
I don't know. We might.
The funny part is like, yes, I take care of booking flight, telling people like what they need to pack. But once we load that plane, because Range has been, he could attest this. Once we get off, I don't know any more than y'all do. Like I know where we meet up with the people that want us to get in the van. But
I like how that sounds great again.
But it really,
step one, find the people in the white van. They'll take you to safety.
But like I remember like we went 2 or 3 years in a row where like we'd gotten set in this regiment. Like we get off the airplane, we go to our van, they take us to stay the night in Guatemala City, and then we go on to San Lucas. And like I just knew the routine. And then we showed up this year, and Jorge was like, we changed our plan. We're heading to San Lucas right now. So it's very much once we hit ground in Guatemala, we are at their pace, and that's why I tell everybody the goal is to just be a servant.
Yeah, right.
So
I kind of took the same approach to it mentally as I did with foster care. It's like, there's so many things you cannot control, you don't know about, and my number one job is just to show up and love the kids well where they're at. That's how I'm kind of viewing this, going into it eyes wide open, just going to love these folks where they're at.
Yeah.
So, speaking of that kind of stuff, Xavier, you've been to Panama. What are you processing through different country because you've been, and what's like going through, because you're taking, you're not taking, but your wife's going with you, who has not been on a foreign mission trip. This is her first one. So, where's your head? Because you had a big culture shock when you went to Panama.
Yeah, it from the jump. It was, oh Lord, I am completely immersed and out of control. And it was like, Lord have mercy. From before we left, for the airport here, the guy who was leading the trip, he was like, I have to have emergency eye surgery, so I'm not going to be able to go. You have to lead the trip. This is my first. What? Why me? First off, why me? And
Wow.
second off, like I literally dialed my wife's phone number, and I was like, "Come get me." I didn't call her. I didn't hit send, but I'm like, "This is ridiculous," and what is going on? Type of thing. So, I am going into it with eyes wide open.
No
And an open, eyes wide open, and like I am anticipating, like, okay, something happening before we go. Like that's where my head is. It's like, okay, God, you are going to put me in a position to where I am going to have to fully depend and trust on you. I'm just waiting for the shoe to drop. What is that going to look like? And so it's like I am nervous. Because I'm like, I don't know what that's going to look like. And it is what it is. The Lord showed me so much on that trip. It was a life-changing experience, seeing the Kuna Indians and just being immersed in their culture. But
Who was Sam Craig?
yes, he
Yeah.
was actually there.
Yeah.
He wasn't leading the team, but that was like his 30th trip or something like that.
Yeah.
He's been going since the 80s, but
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Affirmative.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's super dope. Okay. Sorry about that.
So yeah, I mean, only thing I would add for me is like it's been so I haven't been
Pre-COVID, right?
pre-COVID, so it's been right at 4 years since I've been to Guatemala. So it's almost like starting over, but it's definitely different because I have taken my 2 older children. We didn't go for like a full week of missions. We went. Our kids got to see what we do missions down there, and then we kind of did like a mini vacation with our missionary down there, Jorge. This will be the first time that my 2 older children are going with us, which does add a level of stress. I mean, my son's 16, my daughter's 15, so they're not little, but they're still not grown either. And then, not that I'm not getting into it, but like Charlie dealing with some health issues, but just prayed about it and feels like God is calling her to still go. So we're just trusting and doing that. As a dad, that's tough because, like you said, straight up, like when you said if you break your ankle, I remember it wasn't a mission trip. I went one time, just me and a couple of guys, to scout our next mission trip with Jorge, and we're walking through where this house is going to be, and he steps on a nail. And immediately rips off his shoe, rips off his socks, takes the machete, crams it in the fire, and then like slaps his foot like 4 or 5 times where it's bleeding good, and then like seared the bottom of his foot. And I'm freaking out. Like I'm just like, this is crazy talk. And I'm like, what are we doing? And he was like, we're 3.5 hours from a hospital, bro.
You gotta stop the bleeding.
Gotta stop it, and you don't want to get tetanus. And if we go 3.5 hours, we're not coming back today, so we're losing a day of work. So like,
just cut my leg off. Cut my leg off.
Amputate.
Keep moving.
yeah,
Por favor.
Actually, just throw me off somewhere.
yeah. But I will say,
I'm
like,
done.
for me that has been
He's at the river.
for me that has been
I'm on deck.
the exciting parts that I have, especially for you two. Paul's getting to lead some worship. I think it'll be a thing that he'll never forget. It is a beautiful. Every morning we do worship and a devotion. He's also doing a devotion, but his passion is worship, and I think he's going to thoroughly enjoy that. And then Xavier will get to preach, and it for me it is the fondest memory I've ever had of preaching in 20-something years in ministry. Was preaching down there. It's tough with a translator because
You ever had to do it in Panama?
you did.
Yep.
So it's just a really
That's
cool,
super cool.
experience to go to church and just experience their
And after a basketball game.
oh, you just smelling.
Well, I mean, everybody smell like it. First of all, Panama is a different beast. Like, you got to bring an extra pair of nostrils because you're gonna burn straight through the first one. Just
whole buffet of
Lord have mercy. But it was so important. Like, these were real games with real referees, because if they beat you, they felt as though that they didn't need to listen to what you had to say. Like, so they would take the ball, they would take the net, and they would leave. And everybody who was a part of this island would leave, and you wouldn't even get to share the gospel. So it wasn't like we were just playing pickup games. This was real life. Like, this was, if we don't win, we don't get to share the gospel.
Wow.
So it was another level of just intensity, and we win, and then it's like, okay, now you're up. Now you preach. So I'm tired. Physically, and now I'm having to do like a 35, 40-minute message with a translator, right? Or with the translator. So it was a different level of, like, this is real life, you know.
That's what's so cool. Like, I think for me, I've preached there twice, because every time I go, I try to give someone else the opportunity. But the first year we went, Pastor Hanero was still the pastor of the church. And just, to me, it's such an honor to fill his pulpit. So, like, when he went there, this village was still ran by guerrilla warfare. So every weekend, Jorge's father would basically put him in the back of a truck, cover him in plantains, smuggle him into the village, and at midnight they would take him out, and he would hide in someone's home, and families would come by over the next couple of days, and he'd share the gospel with them. And over time, he was able to plant this church. So when I went the first year, he was the pastor. The second year is when he got sick and died. And the elders of the church asked his wife and his family to continue to lead the church with their guidance. And so they still lead it today. And just to see, like, when I went the first time, it was like very just cinder block walls and dirt floor, and to see, like, they've put in tile and they've painted the walls, and, like, they actually had, like, the last time, I don't know what they have now, but they had a projector, and they were so excited they had speakers, and like, and just to see, like, the church actually growing, and to know that it started with this man that, like, was smuggled in. Like, it's just a really cool experience to be a part of.
That's wild.
Yeah, and because, like, most of us we didn't grow up in church like that. Like,
right.
The church we grew up in was already established, or
nobody was smuggling me to Bethel Baptist Church in Deer Park, Texas.
So let's transition to this question. What are some misconceptions, in your opinion, of foreign missions?
I said earlier, like, it is the end-all, be-all. It's romanticized to the point where it's like, first off, I may go on a little rant. The reality is that if you feel called to foreign missions and you are not even on mission here, I question it. Just like if you feel called to be a pastor, some sort of shepherd, and you aren't shepherding regularly, you are not making disciples regularly in your life, I question that. What it sounds like is you just want somebody to listen to whatever it is you have to say. So in the same breath, like, you will be, I didn't become a pastor in title and then start pastoring. No, I was showing that gifting, showing the fruit of that before I had the title.
Right.
And in the same sense, there's so many people who I feel, I'm called to this place, or I'm called to this place. Right. And it's like, bro, I hear you, but you're not even on mission in your neighborhood. So how is it that you are called to foreign missions?
So you say, and I 100% agree with it, but do you think, so I was actually thinking about this the other day. I think that people that love going on foreign mission and don't show that trait here. First of all, I think it for whatever reason, I think it's easier for everyone to draw into Jesus foreignly, because you have to be so vulnerable, so less control, and it shows you something that you didn't see yourself. But I also would say maybe it's because the idols you love can't come with you, so you get to be someone you're really not over there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like whether it's the love of money or your job or your friends around you, like all them people aren't here. So when you introduce yourself to this community of people, you can be whoever you want to be. You can be sold out for Jesus for a week.
Dang.
Which is a sad truth.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying that God doesn't still use you. Clearly he does.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a whole, like, I guess I heard people say God used me in spite of me. And I'm like, I wouldn't brag about that. Like, I don't want to be someone that God uses in spite of me. I want God to use me because it seems like the right choice, because I've given so much to him. And like, if it was a draft pick, I would want to believe that Jesus would want me on his team. Not like, well, we're getting down to slim pickings and you're up.
Or string you're in.
No, but I think that's really good. The misconception I would add is that as a believer, first of all, I would also 100% say every Christian should be doing missions domestically, period. But my challenge would be it is a misconception that doing foreign missions is a choice as a believer. It is a command by God to be foreign and domestic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are financials involved, health involved. I'm not like, do I think that there are people out there that physically, financially just aren't able to go, but it's the willingness to go. And there's some people like, I'm just not called to foreign missions. Well, I don't know what that means. Like,
right.
Another misconception out there is that our job is to go out there and save them and change them. That's not the goal.
That's good.
We are not called to go Americanize their situation.
Right.
We're called to go serve them and hopefully get the chance to show them the love of Jesus.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That goes back to foster care for me, what you just said.
Yeah.
Seriously, because like when your kids get there and you start unpacking with them and hearing their story, you immediately want to fix it, Felix, and be like, oh, this is, we should do this, and this will correct it. And it's like, no, you just have to show up, sit with them, listen, love them where they're at. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, I think, and that's why I read the book Helping Hurt. The first year I went, like, without even realizing, I had this subconscious mindset of, I want to make everyone's life better. Like, I want to teach you why it's important to brush your teeth, which it is. I want to teach, like, every kid I saw, I wanted to give 2 handfuls of candy like it's Halloween.
Right.
I want to give out toys. I want to, like, I literally, I'm rolling down the window of my van, throwing it out like we're going down the road in a parade.
right.
And then I realized when I read this book, I feel good about myself. It's not about the love of Jesus. I feel good because I feel like I'm saving these people, or I'm giving these people a good day. And I'm not saying that, are we from a first world able to bless people in a way that some people can't? Absolutely. And I think we should do that. But the ultimate goal is to serve them and not try to make them who we are.
Right.
So worship God in their context.
Absolutely.
Like John Piper says, missions don't exist because worship doesn't. And so, or missions exist because worship doesn't. And we aren't going down there for the sake, or going wherever, not just Guatemala, but wherever we go on missions. It's like we go there to show Jesus, for them to experience him there, not to experience him how we experience him in the States, not to go down there and help them be evangelicals, or, like, it's just, you experience Jesus for yourself here. When we were in Panama, there was first off, you had the Kuna Indians who spoke Kuna, and then you had the second and third generation, they spoke Kuna, some English and some Spanish. So we are going to these remote islands. It's 365 islands that make up the Kuna Indians. So we out there just in the thick of it, like in the jungle. Like, I feel like, I'm like, Lord, please help me. Because obviously again, I was leading this team. First mission trip, it was so crazy. But we're asking them, like, hey, do you know Jesus Cristo? And they're like, no, maybe he's on the other island.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We ain't never met no.
My cousin?
He's on the other island. And I was so just baffled that it's like, bro, you go anywhere here and somebody's going to have some sort of understanding of church and, you know, just Jesus, you know, and things of that nature. But it was so, right. But it was so innocent and so just, like, it was just totally different. So it was like us breaking down the gospel was literally just bones. Like, this is Jesus. This is why you need Jesus. And they were like, okay. It wasn't us trying to think of some cool metaphor or analogy. It was just, this is Jesus. This is why you need him. This is what he'll do for you, and this is how you can serve him. All right, cool. I thought he was down on the other island, but no. Now you done broke it down. Okay, cool.
Well, and because of Christian influence, you had somebody named Jesus Cristo, and they didn't even catch the reference.
They didn't even catch it.
Isn't that wild?
Like, it's so crazy. But I say all that to say is, we go there to give them Jesus, not evangelicalism, not Baptist, not Methodist, not Lutheran, not Reformed, not Arminian, not Jesus.
Right.
Unapologetically, like, just the gospel. And we give it to them, and they bring it to life. Like, the scriptures are brought to life in their particular context.
Well, and I so agree with that. Like, I can remember, like, and the thing is, because we're so engulfed in our wants and needs, that we look for these perfect opportunities to share Jesus. I will never forget, we were at the clinic one day, and this lady walked in with twins, and the doctor just because clearly she's had to have this conversation way more than I've ever heard. She said, with your financial situation and where you live, your two babies are malnourished. You need to decide which one's going to live. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh, I can't do this. Like, and she's like, I'm almost done with the checkup. You need to be prepared to share the gospel next. And in my head, I'm like, this is not the time. Like, you just told her one of her babies has to die. And she's like, and the doctor looked at me and goes, doesn't change what she needs. And I was like, dang. And here's the cool part. Like, I asked her if she knew who Jesus was, and she said no. And so I sat down with her and talked to her, and she ended up meeting with one of our translators. His name is Israel, and like shared the gospel with her, and she accepts Jesus, knowing outside of a miracle, one of her babies is going to die. And like I want to say, like, less than 2 weeks later it did, but she's still a part of the church. And like, it's just a difference we can't even fathom what that looks like. Which kind of leads to my next question of, why should all Christians go on domestic and foreign missions? Because I do think they're very different. I think it challenges us. Domestic missions and foreign missions challenge us in a way different way. I think that it both take us to the end of ourselves, but differently. Like, I look at my life and go, okay, besides being a pastor of a church, I consider myself a missionary with the Youth Reach Boys. I consider that a mission. And then I look at Guatemala and I go, you know, the way I have to come to the end of myself in Guatemala is completely different than when I'm working with these young men.
Right.
And I have to I have to call on Jesus differently in those two facets, which ultimately I've realized God will touch all of them with or without me. But in both scenarios, God is growing me into a different believer in Christ through those missions.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, even in like loving on these young men has changed the way I look at my own children. whether it's patience or even just challenging me to be different. And then going to Guatemala is also like help me realize that like I have zero control over any of this. Like just very different in both areas. So I don't know. What do y'all got on? We all agree we should be on mission on both, but why? I guess is the question.
Go for it, Paulie.
I'm really trying to prepare my heart and soul to be broken, to be honest. Like, I'm really trying to prepare for, like, the awe factor of, like, I never had it so good is the understatement of, my life, I'm just really trying to prepare myself for that, I think. Like, that's what I really feel like I'm wanting God to show me how this is a perspective shift, because I get so caught up on things, and that's not the whole point of me going, obviously, but I'm excited about that. It's just like, I get so caught up on some things sometimes, like, oh, the gas tank's quarter full. I got to go fill it up. It's like, I got a car to go put gas in, it's.
So you talk about that and just wait until you get back and make a trip to the grocery store.
Right.
Literally broke down crying, me and Jessica both, in the middle of the grocery store. I'm sure people were walking by like, what's wrong with y'all? But like literally just going to the grocery store, just broke down bawling.
Right.
Well,
yeah, Dale already told me a story about getting mobbed for like a Dollar Tree toy.
Yeah,
and I'm just like
I literally
man, I don't.
Well,
that's gonna wreck me.
We walked across this long bridge, really long bridge, and to this little village, and these kids come running down out of the mountains. Like, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like, I'm talking full sprint running down, and they're waiting in line. We're gonna feed them, and we're waiting. They were like waiting in line, and I pull out this little ball that I got from the dollar store, and like they turned and looked, and it was so. It's not like if people would have been in our church today and saw the Armatard 3, the Bright 3, the Youngs, your kids, like, it's chaos when all of our kids are together.
Sure.
It takes a very acquired taste to want to be around us.
Yeah.
And
it's a lot.
Yeah. And if you threw a toy out there, they're all gonna go after it because they want to play. But these kids' eyes were like, this might be the only opportunity. Like to see a kid go, I've never had a ball before.
Yeah.
This might be my one chance. And to see like the hunger in their eyes to like give it to me. Two things happened. One, it broke my heart. Two, I realized I'm in trouble. Like, these 100 and something kids are fixing to take me out.
Right.
Like, because
right.
I mean, and that's what we don't understand. Like, and that's one thing that convicted me, like, that I don't do anymore. Like, I was throwing candy out of the windows, and then Jorge, this is when I decided to read When Helping Hurts. Jorge woke me up the next morning early and said, I want you to look. And the kids were literally sleeping on the concrete next to the road by our hotel, waiting for me to get up, hoping to get something else. He goes, you created that. He said, what you thought was a blessing, they're not in their homes. They're sleeping on the street, hoping that you as a white man will just drop another piece of candy for them. He goes, is that what you came here to do? And it was a powerful, what I thought was good, he, through the love of Christ, showed me, like, that's not what you're here for. Because you're going home at the end of the week. And I'll even say this, and I think Range would agree with this. I do agree. Like, when you go home, the first time someone's like, hey, let's go out to eat, you're like, you start struggling. But one thing I love that Jorge does is he talks to us about, do not rob God of the blessings he gives you. The question you're asking is, are you using your blessings to bless others for the kingdom of God? And I think that's a huge mindset change that I've had in my life. A lot of people are like, and this isn't meant to like toot my own horn or anything, but like there's been times in my life where raises have been offered and I'm like, no, I know this employee doesn't make enough. Like, take my raise, give it to them. And it's like, and I truly try to ask myself, like, God, if I have enough, let me give it away. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge thing. What, Xavier, what you want to add to that?
Just from the standpoint of both domestic and foreign, like evangelism is key. Like Matthew 28, go therefore out all nations, even to the ends of the age. And preaching the gospel. So evangelism is key because we can't conform, or we can't be conformed into the image of Christ without being concerned with the mission of Christ.
That's good. Yep.
Right? So we need to engage in the mission of Christ here and foreign, just from the standpoint of we're to go to the end of the earth to share Jesus with people, whether that's on mission trips or funding people, because there are some people who can't actually go themselves, but I know plenty of godly people who can't go, but they fund.
Absolutely.
Right.
They fund people to go because they can't physically do it. So they're still being a part of that mission. But I think for me, so that's the overarching. But for me personally, what it constantly shows me, and my wife, she always says this, but it constantly shows me how big God is, that we will be in Guatemala, right? Sharing Jesus. People will be here sharing Jesus. I have a youth reach son who is in Poland right now sharing Jesus. And we are all over the world and yet sharing that same Jesus. And he is empowering all of us in these different regions, these different hemispheres, to share his love and for us to experience him in a very real way in different spots of the earth. And it's just like that is so, there's a shrinking feeling that comes over me in thinking about that I honestly a lot of times don't get here because I'm so caught in the hustle and bustle of just life. But it's like a perspective shift whenever I do get to go and really think about that, like, man, I'm sharing Jesus and he is empowering me and he's listening to me. He's hearing me here. And yet at the same time, this person over here in a different hemisphere is sharing Jesus, needing Jesus. He's hearing them over there and he's empowering them over there as well. How big is my God? It's just amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just a shrinking feeling that I don't get while I'm here.
Yeah.
Unless I'm like, there's a shift in my heart to really be inclined to it, but I get caught up in what I'm doing so much that sadly it'll take something like this or thinking about this to kind of help me to refocus. But
yeah.
Yep.
So on that, let's end with, is there any biblical, it says biblical approach to foreign missions, but we can just say missions in general. What is our biblical approach that we would like to give? If there's anything else we want to add as we wrap up today.
I liked what you said. I mean, I think that if we're not cleaning up our own backyard, I don't necessarily think, we should be spinning hand over fist to go to any third world country. It's like, I think we should be equally as focused on, local as foreign, if not more so, right? Because it's like the more we evangelize and do things in our own neighborhood, hopefully the more foreign ministry or foreign missions that would fuel.
Yeah.
Well, I liked what you said though. I think I don't know why it gets so glorified. I mean, it's just so radically different, but I think local missions should be, there's a lot of, that's something we're not talking about, but there's a lot of churches who aren't doing any of that either.
No, the crazy part is there's so much truth to that. I grew up in a Southern Baptist church, which Southern Baptists lead the nation in sending missionaries. However, not only did I not go on my first mission trip until probably 10 years into ministry when I left Southern Baptist, I'd never met an actual missionary that came out of our church in my entire life. Like we always had, like every Southern Baptist church has that mission month where they bring a guy in that teaches on whatever he's doing. And like for me, I just remember it being so boring because it wasn't a passion or a part of who our church was. It was an anomaly,
Right.
Because we had turned, which it still is this way. We turned the mission is to bring them to the church.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So
it's
like
it's
wasn't
come,
even,
not
yeah,
go.
It wasn't even like because we
Yeah.
usually like so it'd be like 4 weeks, and there'd usually be like 2 weeks of foreign missionaries and 2 weeks of domestic missionaries. And I just remember those 4 weeks being like, okay, like maybe you'll talk about something cool, but half the time I can't understand you. In fact, I will say this, and this will like I'm prefacing because this is a cuss word, so we're all there. This guy came to our church. This is the only time in my entire life I remember a foreign missionary coming to our church, and he was from, I want to say he's from Northern Ireland. And he walked in and he said, there are people dying all over the world, and nobody gives a damn. And he goes, and you sit here in front of me today, and you're more worried about me saying damn than people dying and going to hell. And I was like, of course, I'm like 10 in Southern Baptist Church, and I'm like, he just cussed. Like, and I mean, I didn't get it at the time, but like, I never forgot that. And like, it really resonated in me. Like, why did he do that? What that was passionate. Like I could just see the passion off of him. And like, as I grew in my faith, it like re-energized what he meant. So maybe the message of the moment didn't matter, but now the message matters greatly to me. So the thing I would add is Romans 10. My wife actually has this tattooed on her foot, but Romans 10:14 through 17 says, How then will they call on him if in him who they have not believed? How are they to believe in him who has never heard? And how are they to hear without someone preaching? And how are they to preach unless someone is sent? As is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news, but they have not all obeyed the gospel. For Isaiah says, Lord, who has believed what he has heard? So faith cometh from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ. And so for me, like, that's just like, I hope, and this I say this, I hope that my feet will lead me across the street if that's where God's calling me to share the gospel. Down the road to a youth reach son, to Guatemala, to wherever God wants me to go. Do I think, I got asked this the other day, do I think that every Christian that is able should take a foreign mission trip? And my answer is yes, because I do think it adds a different perspective to our spiritual walk that we don't always get to see wherever you might live. And I said, however, I don't see foreign missions doing that negates what you should be doing domestically. The two have, in my opinion, they have nothing to do each other, but all to do the same. Your passion to go foreign should be the same passion to share the gospel with the person in line in front of you at HEB or wherever you shop for groceries. Like how many people in our lives, on our social media, do we know are dying and going to hell? And when's the last time we tried to share the gospel with them? And you know, we could go down that road of like, I don't want it to be like every 10 minutes, like, hey, ready for me to talk to you about Jesus again? Like,
right.
But just living it out, like just living it out around them where they want what you have.
Right. Yeah. That's good.
Amen.
That's really good.
Well, I think that was a good closing point for this episode. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Paul, for being here.
Pleasure.
We have 3 more weeks with Paul, so get comfortable. Put your feet up.
Snuggie.
Yeah. Get you some food. Don't go see Rodney down the corner.
No.
But we will be
dust.
back next week talking with Paul, getting to know him some more. So thanks, guys, for hanging out with us, and hopefully we will see you guys next week. the best classic hits. You can download the Houston Radio Platinum app. It's in your app store, or just ask Alexa to play Houston Radio Platinum.